Hey y'all, it's Jodi here, and you're listening to my flippin' podcast.
Y'all, you just gotta embrace the suck.
I'm in my 30s. I have 3 kids,
All born in different decades.
selling houses, flipping houses, renting houses, raising kids, random farm animals.
I can't deal.
Hey y'all, welcome to the latest edition of my flipping podcast, and I'm really excited because I have one of my favorite people here with me today. This is Mr. John Christopher Adams of State Farm Insurance. Not only is, in my opinion, is he the best State Farm agent out there.
It's my opinion too.
Yes, it is his opinion. But he's also a really good friend of mine, also a lover of real estate, house connoisseur, talented musician.
Most days.
Yeah, and just overall great guy, and I hope that he's going to bring a lot of information to you guys to hopefully help you with any insurance needs that you may have. And then I think we're going to talk a lot about real estate and some other fun stuff. So we're just gonna roll with it. So let's start off because I love to give people the opportunity to tell their story about how they got to where they are.
Okay.
So just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, you are not originally from this part of Alabama.
No, I'm from a little town called Fannin, which is right outside of Brandon, which is right outside of Jackson, Mississippi. So most people say Brandon, but I'm from Fannin.
Fannin?
Fannin,
Mississippi.
Yeah, population about 13 of us. No, it's a little bit
and you're
more than
related
that.
to all of them.
All of them are my cousins, basically. So very small town there. Grew up and graduated from Northwest Rankin High School. Left there and went to Mississippi College, which is a small Baptist university right outside of Jackson. And then went to University of Cincinnati and did my graduate work. All of my degrees are in operatic performance.
Yes, operatic performance.
And then I ended up in Gadsden.
No, there's something that happened in between there, I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, I traveled professionally singing for about 8 years. And then after that, I was traveling about 11 months out of the year, so it got a little bit tiring. So I wanted to kind of settle down a little bit. So I moved back to Mississippi, started in insurance, and then a little bit less than 2 years from the day I started in insurance, I opened my office here in Gadsden. And so that's
been here.
The rest is history.
Been here ever since, and have become a very integral part of the community, which I think is huge. I mean, there's a lot of people who move into new areas to start a business, and they have a really hard time, like finding their place and putting down roots. And I mean, is there anything that you think really helped you, or any little tidbits you could?
Well, it's so funny. You and I met at my closing right down the street, and you weren't even my realtor.
No.
And so we just met at the closing table, and I think we were in there cracking more jokes than anybody.
Oh my God.
And
it was like an immediate connection.
It was, and then we were bonded for life. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and what I've realized being a new business owner here, a lot has to do with name recognition in a small town. And a lot of people didn't know me, and luckily with a name like John Adams, people might think they know you, and apparently there's some really tall black guy around here that looks just like me. And so everybody thinks they met me at some place. I'm like, that wasn't me. That's all right. Meet me now and come on here and get an insurance quote. But so it was big about name recognition, and I took over for an agent that retired after like 40 years. And so you have the struggle of that. So first getting here and being really close to my family, it was very hard to make that transition.
Yeah.
And so for the first year or so, it was just kind of work, home, let down my garage, cut my grass. Like that's all I did. And so then I kind of felt like I had to become more active. I had to pour myself into the community. So find things that were really important to me. So being in Sfattalla, a lot of people don't know that most of the kids are on free or reduced lunch. I think it's something like 80%.
Yeah.
So you and I partnered the first year as well to do the Operation Christmas Elf to provide Christmas to all the children there. So I think the first year we did like 36 kids. The second year we ended up with 29. Did few this year just because things have changed so crazily. But that was the first thing I kind of poured myself into. Got on several boards of directors. I don't know how that happened, but all of a sudden everybody was asking me, and I'm too stupid to say no. And so ended up on several boards. One of my favorite is SPAN of Etowah County, that helps kids that the traditional classroom doesn't work for. So it gives them a
let's get into that a little bit,
Yes.
because you and I had a great conversation the other night, because I've been here my whole life and I've never heard of this organization, and it really just touched me what the mission is. And so let's dive into that.
So SPAN... Success.
And you're saying SPAN.
SPAN.
Okay.
And oh Lord, don't even ask me what it stands for. But SPAN basically, it takes the kids that need to do like credit recovery, or it's like I said, like if the traditional classroom doesn't work for them, you got some kids that have like some social things that just doesn't make it quite right. So it gives them more, not one-on-one, but it does feel like one-on-one instruction. They have counselors there on site for the kids that they work with. It's just really great. And so first time I went, I actually met the director, Kevin Blackwell. I was at an event over at Gadsden State where they were just kind of talking to some of the business leaders in the area. And he and I met, and he just he presented to the group and told a little bit about him. And I said, I want to go check it out. So took the girls from my office. We went over there. Really great organization, young girls, young boys, like usually about 25 to 30 kids, but they give them specialized instruction to help them recover any credits that they may be missing. You got kids there that school just doesn't work for, so they want to do GED, so they get them to the point where they pass the GED.
Right.
They give them, little scholarship gifts for that, Christmas presents, and that's what you and I were talking about. One of the kids had asked for, they asked all the kids what they wanted for Christmas, and one of them said they wanted heat. And that's when my heart kind of shattered for children. I was like, okay, I've got to do as much as I can for kids. So from that, I ended up on Big Brothers Big Sisters, Family Success Centers. I'm on all these boards of directors now because children have a special place in my heart. I don't have any, don't ever want any, but it's something special about them. So yeah, that's SPAN. I think that's when I really kind of felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It took probably about 1.5 years. But then when I would be in Mississippi, I'd be like, okay, y'all, I'm ready to go home. And that's a different thing to finally call it home. Like, I want to go home. And so, it's took a little while to get there, but I'm glad.
Yeah, because you do have a wonderful, large, extended family. I've gotten to know some of your family members.
Very close.
Some funny side story here. I'm going to rat you out. So because, and I call him Chris, so don't let that confuse you.
She does.
But he goes by both. But I got to know I know your mom pretty well.
You do, surely.
So just to I'm totally gonna rat you out and tell this funny story.
Okay.
So I get a Facebook message from your mom. She now has my cell phone number, so we don't have to go Facebook route anymore. And she's in a complete panic because she cannot get you on the phone. And she's like, Jodi, have you talked to Chris? I can't get him on the phone. I don't know what's going on. And then that starts getting me worried because I know you're not one not to answer your mom.
This is true.
And I know you talk to her a lot and you have this huge family. And he's here. You live by yourself.
Yes.
You don't have any immediate family close by. So I am now, I'm trying not to panic, but I'm starting to panic myself because the only thing I can think about is the last conversation that we had, which is where I called you and you were like, hey, I'm sorry, can I call you back? And you're being all whispery. And when the phone call happened, the logical person thinks, oh, you've got somebody in your office and you need to call me back, which I'm sure is what actually happened. But now that you're not answering your phone, I'm thinking that you've been abducted and killed.
Like investigation ID kicks in.
Yes, I'm thinking it's all the Dateline and 2020 crap is in my head. And then, so I make my husband go with me, Josh, to your house. I'm flying over there. I had to tell my mama that I'm leaving. My mama starts praying for you too. She's all upset. Which she's like, we got a whole prayer tree going.
Love
everything. So then I'm on my way to your house and I'm about to turn on your road and I realize that I cannot even remember what you're driving now because y'all, this man changes vehicles. I'm just
it's the adventurous side of me. I need to change things up so I could be incognito every once in a while.
Oh my gosh.
That's what we'll call it.
Yes. So thank goodness Josh was there and he was reminds me of the vehicles. So we pull in the driveway And somehow this man is able in a 20 by 20 garage to get a Suburban and a Camaro and a trike all in this garage.
They are all
but
in there.
I don't realize his mad parking skills. And so I just pull in the driveway and there's no vehicles.
It's so dark in there too. You probably
And
couldn't see it.
I could see the top of the Suburban, but that was it. So now I'm like double panicked. Double panicked. And I'm freaking out, banging on the door, ringing the doorbell. I still wish that you would have pulled your your Ring doorbell footage, because I'm sure that was
I'm
hilarious.
gonna send it to you because I have it. So the funny thing is, so I hear something at the door because like the doorbell is actually on the other end of the house. So I hear something on the door, like I kind of hear something faintly, and the app goes off from Ring to kind of tell me somebody's at the door. But like I look over my shoulder because I was sleeping on my stomach. So I look over my shoulder and you can see directly to the door, and I don't see anybody. So I just turn her back over and go back to sleep. So then she starts knocking like the law. That was the loudest knock I've ever heard in my life. And so I go out there, Chris! And I'm like looking at the door because of course I left my phone on the bed. So I'm looking out the door and I don't see anybody. But I open it and I don't even see Jodi because Josh is still standing down on the ground.
Off the porch.
And I am like, what is going on? Jodi's bent over in front of the camera, like talking to me apparently. So I opened the door.
I was like, wherever you are, you better answer right now.
Whole conversation going on with that camera, y'all. And I am like, when I first opened the door, I'm like scared to death. But then all of a sudden the giggles settle in. And I am cracking up because Jodi looked like she thought I had been abducted. 6'7", 212,000 pounds, and they think I'm like abducted by somebody. Nobody is taking me. But what happened was it had been a long and stressful day, and had a margarita, and I could not decide between regular and jumbo, and so I said, let's go jumbo. And I was
asleep.
Yes.
You were sneezing.
I was flammable. As they say.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
But tell them what my mother said when she...
Oh my gosh. So then I get the next message I get. Well, the first thing I just said to you, I didn't even explain it. I just said, I was so glad to see you alive and upright. Because my next thought was that you fell or something.
Did Josh say something about
Josh was like, oh my God, I'm not, because that's what Josh thought. Josh was like, he's fell in the garage. So in his mind, I'm seeing you abducted. And in Josh's mind, he is seeing that you have fallen in the garage. And so all Josh is thinking is, how am I going to get you up?
I'm cracking up at what goes through their heads. That is the best part.
And so anyway, so Miss Shirley, the next message I get from him was, Jodi, he was drunk.
Yes, I'm not even going to lie. But see, I don't drink a lot. And so when I do drink, and I think people think because I'm a bigger guy that I can probably drink. It does not take much. Usually within the first few sips, you will hear me say something like, I can't feel my lips. And then it just plummets from there. So, so that's why I don't drink very often. But
no. And if you do, you better call your mom.
Yeah, that was a very restful sleep, though, I will say. I slept very well that evening.
I'm going to tell you ran your sugar up.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely.
I can't drink a margarita.
I normally
blood sugar
don't.
spike.
But that was one of my first times going out to a restaurant since everything kind of hit. And it was I just, the stress of everything that's been going on. I was like, I need to drink. And before I felt perfectly fine. I don't think, and we say I was drunk. I really don't. I don't think I was. I know I wasn't, as a matter of fact.
I'm going to tell you, I think you ran your sugar up.
That's probably what it was. But it was some good sleep. I'm telling you. And I'm usually, even when I do, if I'm drinking socially, as long as I'm standing up, I'm fine. But the moment I go vertical, that's it. That is it.
Night.
Yeah, that's it. So.
Night. So okay, so that was a fun night. That's when I became an official member of your family.
You are.
That's what I was told.
I was telling my mom the possibility of me moving close to, maybe putting my house on the market and moving, and she was like, "No, I just do not agree." And I said, "Well, I'm looking at a piece of property that's close to Jodi." Oh, that'll work. Automatic flip. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Because she's not going to feel bad about having me go check on you then.
That's probably
because I can almost see you with binoculars.
She's
gonna try to get me to spy on you.
We should get walkie-talkies if we live beside each other.
That would be so much fun.
That way we don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
That would be so much fun. So, and I do want to talk about your idea for the house, because that is probably what you and I talk about the most these days. But let's go into insurance just a little bit. Okay. So, I've obviously, a lot of people who listen to me, they follow me because we do a lot of investment property. You have a lot of our insurance, but I think your bread and butter is going to be like your standard residential coverage, is that kind of your lane. But sort of go into maybe if you can think of any pitfalls that you've seen that people, kind of fall prey to. Okay. I know I've heard lots of nightmare stories about being underinsured, overinsured. How do you know that you're kind of like in that place where you need to be?
Well, see, I think the thing that people need to focus on, and one thing I tell a lot of customers, it's the same when it comes to cars and houses. Do not call me after you've gone shopping and you've already purchased what you're purchasing. Because at that point, it's very hard to change anything or even advise you as to what the rate will be. And I know it's a little bit different when you're purchasing a home, but so often people go down to the car lot and then they call me like, hey, I need to see how much insurance is on this car. Oh, that's $350. I can't afford that. Well, I wish you had called me the day before you bought it. I could have told you. So that's the biggest thing I see. But I think one of the pitfalls in the purchase process is that a lot of times, because, and not to fault anybody, but there's so much paperwork that has to happen. It has to happen at a certain amount of time, this and the other, and debt to income. I mean, it could be off by a quarter and it can mess things up. And so usually what I will see is that you'll have a customer that gets a quote from me, and we know where the price is going to be, but they bought maybe a house that was a little bit out of where they should be. And the easiest thing for people to want to change is the insurance.
Yep.
And so lenders are going to make sure that their loan is covered.
Because that's their incentive.
That's their incentive.
They don't get paid until the loan closes.
Exactly. Right. So they're going to make sure that the loan amount is covered. Sometimes that doesn't quite line up with what you're purchasing, because if you're one of those people that's getting a really good deal on something, say you're getting a $150,000 house, but the person died, you're getting it for $65,000. All they're worried about is $65,000. Well, you've got so much more value in that house. Right. So a lot of times people come out of closing and they don't have enough coverage. And knock on wood, it hadn't happened to me yet. But I just imagine the day when somebody calls me because they went through that scenario, and then it's time to write a check and they're going to get $65,000, not the $150,000 that they thought they were. And so my thing is, sit down with your insurance agents, have those conversations with them about how the house should be covered, because we have software that tells us what a replacement cost should be. While it might seem expensive to you, or not even expensive by way of the premium, but, oh, this house isn't worth that much. You may think that, but to try to rebuild right now, cost is not, it's not the same. And especially in this area, because, there are a lot of older houses. Right. And if you were to build an older house with the same like and kind that it was constructed with back then, because most of them have, the thicker walls and all this stuff, the price would be astronomical. So that's why I say it's very important that you have a conversation with your insurance professional. That's why I say everybody in the process they are professional at what they do. So have that conversation with your insurance professional.
And from the realtor's standpoint, and I am still a licensed real estate broker. I still do work with a lot of people, and over the past almost 20 years of my career, I've had a couple of instances where the premium, the insurance premium can kill a deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I always, when I'm giving advice to new agents, one of the things that I try to be sure to cover with them is that, hey, if you have a client that has borderline credit, who maybe has, there's a possibility that they have a bad driving record, because a lot of those personal factors sort of, am I right on this?
Yeah,
they play into your insurance premium. So I had a situation several years back. It's probably been 10 years ago. Isn't that crazy how you think you start?
You're not old enough to have been working for 10 years, Jodi.
I know.
She started when she was 3.
I did. Yeah. I did. I'm only 23.
Exactly.
But I had a deal that almost fell apart because the people, they had borderline credit. They were maxed out, so their debt to income ratio was on the line, and so the lender was estimating the insurance and had put in, I don't know, maybe $100 a month, so that factored into the payment. Right. Well, then when we get the insurance quote because we find out that he had a horrible driving record and, all of this other stuff that played in. We get the insurance quote back and the insurance is double what they had estimated. It's $200 a month. Well, that $100 a month change pushed them to where they no longer were approved for the loan. And they're shopping. And a lot of people shop insurance like the week before closing.
Exactly.
Or 2 weeks before
That's
closing.
what I'm saying. Please let me in on the first part of the process.
Yes.
So that way, because as I tell a lot of people and a lot of realtors know, like, okay, reach out to your insurance company. But then a lot of lenders are now getting hip to it and they'll say, okay, reach out to them because there's ways, if we have to raise the deductible a little bit to get them through closing, that I would rather do something like that than to cut coverages because that's just not fun. But get them through closing and then adjust some things back down where premium goes up a little bit. But the biggest fear that I have with all of that is because the way insurance is set up, depending on the company, and this is not what my company does, but there are companies that base your insurance premium off of college degrees and your education level. So you'll see if you go online now some days and get quotes from some of these companies, they're asking you like the highest level of education attained. What does that have to do with insurance? You know what I mean? And I'm so used to the model being credit, insurance history, claims history, that kind of thing. And so you have to make sure people aren't jumping around to too many different companies because that apparently that shows the potential for a claim. I don't know how that works, but there's so many different metrics. But like I said, so many companies now are going by things that you would never think would play into rates. And so that's why you have to be very careful and make sure that you're getting a general idea up front, about that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't know that the area affects what your insurance premium is going to be.
And I assume that's probably based on like crime rate and your fire department,
how far away you are from it. Exactly. And so that's what you have to take all that to, because you'll have customers that are looking at a house in Rainbow City or South Side, but then all of a sudden they change to Gadsden and they think, oh, it'll be the same. It's the same dollar amount. No, it's a completely different area and things are, where it's located plays a huge factor into things. So that's why I say get that part of it up front. Just kind of know where you are. And a lot of times I think that the sad part is because when you're looking at the pre-approval process, I don't know how it works really, but I think in pre-approvals, they like shoot for the moon and they tell you, oh, you're approved for $17 million. Oh, yeah. And what do you go look at? $18 million houses.
Yes.
But it's like, even with mine, I remember when I moved here, they approved me for a certain amount. And I was like, I'm not going there. But like, this is where I want to stay because I know where I want my mortgage payment to be.
Right.
But that's not how everybody's mind works because most people are like, oh, you told me I can get that much? That's what we're going for.
Right.
That's high case scenario. Like that's the top of where you're going to be. So if you're getting that, then that's you got to factor all that stuff into it.
Yeah, because just a tiny little shift can make a huge difference. And then I was gonna talk a little bit too about some of the in like as far as investment property goes, in State Farm you guys don't not only do homeowners insurance, but you also can cover rental properties, and I'm surprised too at how many people I know who have little to no coverage on investment property.
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that I see a lot of here, especially from back in the day, is that you may have a house that appraises for $100,000 because it's an older house. But because they've been in it for 30 years, I've got customers that are like, oh, we only need it at 29% of what it says it's worth. So you got $29,000 in coverage on this house. Ma'am, this is a 3,400 square foot house in the downtown. You know what I mean? So you see some of that with older policies, but I think people are afraid of being insurance poor. That's the biggest thing. They don't want to be insurance poor. But imagine how poor you're going to be if something happens and you've got to start over from scratch because you didn't have enough coverage. Because I can guarantee you the first thing that's going to be covered is that loan. But what do you have after that?
Exactly. And and I think too, you've got to, you need to think about the fact that we're, which again, knock on wood, we've been fortunate that we haven't been hit by any massive storms or anything in a long time. But we are, in an area where we see tons of tornado. Was
that almost a year ago when that big one came through, like Sfattalla, through that area? And the weirdest thing about that storm, there wasn't damage to houses. But some people, like the one that your husband's company helped with, it wasn't a lot of damage to the house, but 90 trees down in the yard. And, and if the tree did not hit a piece of structure, then it wasn't covered. And that's what people have to be aware. Like, there's a lot that can happen in the blink of an eye, because being right there in Rainbow City, I didn't even feel anything. Didn't know anything was happening. And went to the office. I'm like, oh, office looks good. Well, there's a whole other side to it. Tell us, sir. And it was not up there in Reese City. I mean, it was bad in there for a few days. So, yeah, we've been lucky that we hadn't had anything for almost a year. But
and that was one thing where we had some a freak storm that happened. My oldest son was probably like 13 and he's 22 now. So it was like 9-10 years ago. And it was a microburst. Just one of those things that came out of nowhere. We had this like massive, huge, like 100-mile-per-hour wind that was just really isolated, and it hit our neighborhood. And I mean, we had trees down everywhere. We could not get into our neighborhood. I mean, the power lines were down. It was awful. We had trees on our house. In total, I think we had like 17 trees down. And that was sort of the case for all of our neighbors, because we lived in a very like wooded type neighborhood. And one of the things we had, there was a group of Good Samaritans. And I don't know if they were affiliated with the church or with some sort of organization, but they were coming in and helping people, and they were taking the trees off of the houses and tarping roofs and clearing driveways and everything. But then they would leave the trees that were just down in the yard. And so what happened to some of my neighbors is that, and I don't think that the Good Samaritans it was a great deed that they were doing, but they came in and with their charitable, being charitable with their time, they removed all of the trees that the insurance company would pay for. And left all of the trees that the insurance wouldn't pay for. Right. And so then you have these homeowners, and they're so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, we had these people come in, and we've got our roofs tarped and our driveways clear, and everything's great. So now we just got to call our insurance company about getting up all these 10 other trees in the yard.
And then we are public enemy number one, and you better not show your face. It's when I first got ready to get into insurance, I was hearing stories about when Katrina hit and how people's claims were being denied by, all kinds of companies, and how people's lives were being threatened at the scene. And so I'm like, I'm not sure I want to get into this industry, but it's honestly probably the greatest joy of my life to be, and people say it in insurance all the time, but you really want to be the best thing that happens to somebody on the worst day of their lives. And when you can do that, that's awesome. But with that comes those days when you have to explain things that are not covered. And it's a tough conversation to have. Or the fact that a spouse didn't know that their husband didn't have, life insurance anymore, or things like that. That's probably the hardest part of the job. But here it's storm damage, and just trying to make sure that you're there for people. And I tell, my personal approach is to always be one of the first ones on the scene if I can, or one of my partners being one of the first ones on the scene, because you pay me. That's what you pay me for. Yeah. You pay me to protect you. And so that's just important to me. And I made that the goal of our office, to always make sure that we're there for the customers, even through the tough conversations. I will be there. You might want to slap me, and I apologize, but we'll do that.
I will say you're very good at explaining policies and educating your clients. I mean, because you've taught me so much, just, some of the little nuances and things that you don't know about. Because I think there's, everybody has to take these calculated risks, because you don't want to be insurance poor, especially like, us, where we have multiple properties and, our liability insurance and all this other stuff that we have. It seems like, we're constantly paying insurance. But, there have been several times in our lives where we needed it. And it was having that peace of mind that you just know, hey, this is all good.
I won my sister over from another company, gave her lower deductibles. She didn't really understand what all the hubba, that's not even a word, but we'll make it one. Yeah. But she didn't know what all that really meant, and I kind of explained it to her. And early yesterday morning, She was getting ready to go to the gym after Mississippi had this freak snowstorm. We've never had snow. They got like 3 inches of snow overnight.
Oh my gosh.
She woke up. She went outside. She was getting ready to go to the gym. So she went out to crank her truck up. And she let the garage up. And she was kind of looking at the snow, went back in the house to let the truck warm up. Somebody walked under her garage, stole her car.
You are
Stole her
kidding
car
me.
just yesterday. So I was so excited to be able to tell my sister, that's a comprehensive claim and you have a zero deductible. You won't pay a penny out of pocket for anything. If the car is not recovered, nothing gets deducted from your check. Everything's fine. Luckily for her, they found her car this morning. But in the meantime, she's like, you're trying to go in your head, like, what did I have in the car?
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with homeowners. If something burns down, what did I have in the house? So that's why I tell people, please keep a running list of what you have in your house, because that is terrible.
I'm glad you said that, because I actually had some good friends who they had a total loss a couple of years ago, and their daughter, like they told me, they said if she hadn't have been like still trap mind, photographic memory, was able to kind of like go through, but she had to they had to sit down with their daughter or whatever and spend days and weeks.
It's so it's so difficult to think, especially when you're already in crisis mode.
Right.
And so I always tell people, once you move into a house, go around with a camera. Just shoot like a video of everything that you have in there to the best of your ability. You don't have to go to drawers and stuff, but shoot everything that you can shoot and email that to yourself so that way you have it. That's a starting point. Now, if you're anything like me, Target's going to have a sale this weekend and buy something else. So, you try to kind of update those. Observer Supply is the one. My Lord. I was in there 3 times last week and want to go back today because I saw it on the way here.
Listen, I pulled in earlier because I thought I was going to have some downtime and I was about to go in and the Lord saved me. I got a phone call and I had to run to Rainbow City. And I was like, thank you. Oh my gosh. Because I knew I can't handle it.
There's a lighting fixture in there I want right now, and I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but I'm gonna find somewhere. But so what happened with my sister was, so all of that happened. She thought, okay, he had my house key. I had a garage door opener in there, so she's thinking, and she was getting ready to call a locksmith right quick. And I said, hold on one second before you call anybody. Let me think through this. And so I called in to one of my partners in underwriting, and they said, yeah, she's covered for that on her homeowners, and it will not. It's not, the deductible doesn't apply. I couldn't think of how to say that. So she was able, I sent her a reimbursement check today for what she paid the locksmith. She didn't have to worry about any type of deductible for that. She had a zero deductible for the car. So they're doing that. They're also paying somebody to come out and recode her garage door openers because one of them, by the way, they did find her car early this morning, arrested the guy, but the garage door opener is still missing. So they're going to come out, recode that. We're going to pay for that. So that's why I say it's important to have those conversations up front so you know exactly what you're paying for, because there's so many people. First of all, they can't tell you what the agent's name is. But if you ask them one question about their policy, how much coverage do you have on your house? When I'm quoting people, oh, I don't know. Well, how did you come up with that amount? The insurance person just told me, no. Let's have a conversation. What do you think? And having that conversation up front so they know, because the worst, like I said, one of the worst calls you can have is, you're not covered for that.
Yeah. And I think it's really important just to come in and, maybe even, once a year, which we talk all the time, but once a year to come in and just sort of like reevaluate your situation. And I know you do that with your clients. You offer that service where you come in and say, okay, so I saw you got married. Congratulations. Oh, you're having a baby. That's wonderful. Do you have life insurance? Because those are things that, when you're young and single, you don't think about those types of things. And, and it's also one of those things that you kind of put off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I tell everybody, today is the cheapest that your life insurance is going to be for the rest of your life. Yeah. And they're like, what? Each day that you get older, you're looking at an increase. Each birthday, you're looking at insurance premiums going up. So lock it in while you can. A lot of people say, oh, I don't have kids. I don't have a house yet. That doesn't matter. Go ahead and get that stuff locked in now. Because if I had known back when I was 22 what I know now, starting a policy that I could have paid off in 10 years that would have now at this point, starting at the age of 32, started building cash value. And when I run those numbers and I see what I could have retired with versus what I'm going to retire with because I started it at 33, have those conversations. And life insurance is something hard to talk about anyway. Yeah. But just imagine the conversation with a widow or a widower that they didn't have it, So I'm like, I'd rather be uncomfortable now for a couple minutes than really be uncomfortable
Yeah.
when it's too late.
And honestly, you know, I think for me, and I feel like probably for a lot of people, I think 2020, you've seen so much devastation.
Yes.
You've seen so much death, and it makes you think about those things.
And I was just talking to one of my friends that's an agent here in the area, and she was saying that she wrote a policy for a young man. Probably never thought he would need it. 2 months later, he got killed. I think she said he got killed over in Sfattalla. And this was Thanksgiving. And New Year's Eve, she was able to take his mother a check. I don't even know if the mother knew, but it's just like, who would have thought that 2 months after opening this policy that you would get a benefit from it? And that's one of the things I'm probably most proud of with my company is the number of claims that they pay out for life insurance within that first year. The number is astronomical. So that's why I tell people, please have the conversation a day early versus a day late.
Yeah.
That's the biggest advice. Even when it comes to homeowners, have it a day early versus a day late. Come in, talk to me about your coverage. And one thing, my approach really to insurance too has always been, when you talk to me, I'm either going to make you love what I have to offer, or I'm going to make you love what you currently have.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business of doing something that's not going to be beneficial to the customer. I can't always be the cheapest. I can't always beat everybody, but you can trust the fact that I'm going to look through your policy and I'm going to make sure if you're staying with what you have, you've got some great coverages.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way.
And I can testify to that because when we first met and you were going through everything, you actually told me, hey, I think there was one, I know at least, well, I think it was one of our policies where you're like, hey, I think you need to leave that where it is. And you were like, I think I can do, you know, you're going to be better here. And you explained to me why. And, you know, when you have somebody that's genuinely looking out for your best interest, and you know that and you can trust it, and that means a lot.
Well, you know, I think you and I have probably talked about your policies with other companies more than the ones that you have with me.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, you know that we took the time to have those conversations, time that you didn't take or the other agent didn't take with you on stuff. And I don't mind looking at that stuff. To be an insurance nerd is probably not the most attractive thing to find in a mate, but I'm a complete insurance nerd. I live it and breathe it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, I love having this conversation. I'm glad we did because now you feel more secure with what you have. So.
Oh yeah, and it is that security, that peace, that you have to have. So, well, this has been so much fun. But hey, before we go, I do want to talk about really quick and about your house that we're like, this is in like beginning stages.
Yes,
and
we're thinking. We're in the thinking stages right now. What do we say about it?
Well, okay, so Chris wants to build a barn dominium, and I'm so freaking excited about it because before we bought our place, I probably, like, if you went on my Pinterest, you would see probably 30 or 40 pins about it. And then I was trying to get my son that's in the military, I send him stuff. I'm like, oh, you should build this, you should build this. And so then Chris calls me and he was like, hey, I think I want to build a barn dominium. Is that crazy? And I was like, no, let's do it. I'm so excited.
I called the right person because I have been looking at them for years and they're very popular in Texas, but you don't see a lot of them out here. It's very hard to find even somebody that will do financing on them. But when you look at what you get for the money, because forgive me, Lord, I have a problem with wanting things to be bigger than they need to be. I don't know if it's because I'm 6'7", but you see, I drive a Suburban with no children, no spouse. Craziness. So I started looking at plans. The plan I fell in love with is like 3,800 square feet. What are you going to do with that much house? I don't know. I don't have a vacuum cleaner big enough for it. But it's like when you get in there and you start looking at what you can create out of this building that is just a shell and how beautiful that. And I think there's somebody here in the Gadsden area that has one down in like the Steel area. Every time I drove past it, I was like, that is so interesting to me. But what you can get for it, that's what I'm excited about. So,
and I think people need to kind of like understand that we're not talking about, I mean, because I think when people first started kind of doing like these metal building homes, you know, they were kind of primitive and all sort of had the same look about them. And then you do have the ones that, you know, we call it a barn dominium, but that's probably honestly not the best descriptive term for what we're talking about. This is a very sleek, modern, beautiful structure.
It's a house. It is a house. And the thing is, when you look at some of the designs, because I see so many of them that are like modern farmhouses, you get a lot of that. But like I said, the possibilities with them are endless. And because construction costs, especially now with what timber is costing, the construction cost is so much less. So that's what I'm excited about. And moving to Alabama, I don't know what y'all did to me, but now I just want acreage. I want a 4-wheeler. I ain't shooting a deer, but I mean, I might. But I've just become this new wild man since I have moved here. I don't know what has happened. What did y'all do to me, Alabama? Got me around here saying roll tide and everything else.
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm a bear cat. So, but it is. It's changed a lot. So yeah, y'all. I hope we can talk more about that because it is exciting to see.
I know. We'll do some video of it when we finally get started on it. But and the thing too, from a construction standpoint, that I think it just fascinates me because there's really no load bearing interior walls.
Yeah.
So really just your imagination can run wild.
You see these with 25 feet, apexes for the ceiling and these gorgeous beams that, some of the things that you couldn't do with a traditional stick-built house. That's what's so intriguing to me. Just the possibilities, like I said, are just endless with this construction.
And then the low maintenance, because I've seen some where they stamp and stain the concrete, which is gorgeous. I mean, they can make it look like wood. It can look like tile. It can be, really.
And you see that a lot in traditional houses now where people are doing stained concrete floors.
Yes.
And it's and to be able to put a little bit of heated flooring in there.
Yes.
Oh, never thought about it before until I stepped into a cold shower one time. And I'm like, Lord, what would this be like if there was some hot water running under there?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
My shower is really cold.
My house is about to be fancy.
Your new house?
Yeah, it's gonna be fancy.
And then too, from it's the exterior is basically maintenance free. You don't really have to worry about pests. Termites and all that other stuff. So, it's just, it really is.
The fact that the actual shell of the house goes up so quickly. So your exterior of the house is done fast, and then they can focus on the inside, outside of the, no more elements to worry about in that. Right. So construction is probably a lot faster because, we have to deal with how many days has it rained here lately?
It's awful.
And so many things get delayed. But if you think about a lot of these, they can put that house up, the actual building up within 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Where does that happen? Yeah. So
Never.
That's
Never.
the benefit
I'm
to that.
excited about it. I think it's probably something that we're going to see trending.
Oh, yeah.
And it was crazy too because you and I had been kind of starting to talk about it, and then out of the blue, I got a phone call from one of my previous clients. He was like, "Hey, I've got this friend that's wanting to start building these metal building. I don't know what he called it. He didn't call it barn dominium." And he was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, do it. And they wanted to kind of use Gadsden as a test market. They were talking about building the spec, and I was like, wait a minute, I got a guy. I need
That's
you
what
to
you
talk
told
to.
me. You're like, I got a guy you need to talk to. Jodi, you know everybody. So
I really do. I said I was going to come up with Jodi's list, Angie's list.
Should be. We just need to, I think what we should do is start a referral group where we meet and eat and have margaritas. And
small ones. No jumbos.
No jumbos. But yeah, something like that where you can refer different people because there's so many great people that you have put me in contact with just since I've been here. Because I don't have a problem texting you anybody that does tile work? Anybody that does electrical? And it's great to have that kind of resource. So yeah, Jodi's list would be awesome.
One of my other clients, and he cracks me up. He's a single guy too, and he's constantly doing stuff to his house. And I'll see him on Facebook and he'll say, I need a recommendation for so-and-so. And I'll just text him a phone number. And he finally was like, I don't know why I don't just message you every time. I was like, why are you putting it out on Facebook? I know who to send you to,
Oh, yeah.
But the only thing I get, I try, but I am sort of picky about who I refer.
And that's good. That's good because I can tell you everybody that you have sent has been in and out. They've gotten the job done. And it's so funny that you and I have been working with some of the same people anyway that I send for claims and everything. And so it's, people that I trust people that I know have done great personal work for me. And that's who I refer. Yep. If you come and you do something shoddy, you don't have to ever worry about me saying your name unless I'm saying something ugly. So, yeah.
I know. I had somebody that acted a fool with me the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, you have no idea.
No idea.
You have no idea.
I got 13 friends on Facebook
because you just got marked off my referral list."
I love it. I love it.
Anyway,
love it.
This has been fun as always.
It is.
I know. So let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
So I got a new website at the office. It's www.sfattalla.com.
Wait, what's SF?
SF for State Farm.
Oh,
sfattalla, ATTALLA.com. That's my website. Office number is 256-344-2638. Or you can send me an email at john@sfattalla.com.
That's so much shorter than your other email.
The other one was so long. That's why yesterday I was talking to somebody. I was like, please shorten this thing for me because I cannot anymore. That's too many letters.
I know. That's why I think everybody looks at me funny because I still use my Yahoo. But it's so short and easy. And I've had it forever. And then like I try to use like my corporate one, but it's like J&G Real Estate. It's like, it's a lot.
I had to get rid of my Yahoo because, you know, back then when everybody was like on MySpace and stuff. And like that time I was being all like, I was getting ready to go to the Christian college. So I was being all virtuous and all that good stuff. And it's like patiently waiting 24@yahoo.com. So I had to go ahead and delete that because ain't nobody got time for all that craziness.
No, that's so funny. But you know what I do love is like when you get a client and they like tell you your email and it's like shorty569@hotmail.com or whatever. And you're like,
I see some of them and I'm like, is this what you use for work too? Because that should be on the adult sites. Like it's,
I know.
And like when they, especially if they're like, I shouldn't say this. This is back when I was working. It's not now. But I had a lady that was emailing me her students' grades and her email, like her child's good grades. And I was like, from this email address, I just feel bad for this child. That is terrible. Y'all do something about these email addresses. It's just not appropriate. I'm sorry.
No. Change it up.
Please do.
Change it up.
Yeah.
All right, this has been awesome.
That's good.
So, and before we go, I got to give a shout out really quick to J&G Real Estate Solutions. If you guys are looking to buy or sell, please give one of our fantastic agents a call. You can find us online, jngrealestate.com, or you can give me a call, 256-504-JODI, 504-JODI. And if you don't mind, if you could please give us a like and subscribe. You can subscribe on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and also on YouTube. Our YouTube is Our Flipping Life. And then, of course, it's My Flipping Podcast on Apple and on Spotify. It really helps us with our ratings, and we're trying to spread the good word and help everybody on their entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome.
How'd you like that word?
That's good stuff.
That was
good
good
stuff. Yeah.
All right. Until next time. See you later. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.